Alright, so I'm going to show you how to reply to every single text you will receive from women for the rest of your life. The reality of it is there is only 4 types of messages that you will receive from girls ever. You've got silence, you've got shit test, you've got logical questions, and you have a clearly positive text. And given how she basically responds to you, determines where you are in the interaction and what you should do next.
If it's your first time here, my name is Dan Ferrari, and in my early 20s I was completely confused and lost when it comes to dating. I didn't know how to attract the women I wanted, I didn't know how to speak to the women that I wanted, but that all changed when I decided to dedicate 5 years of my early 20s to mastering attraction, social dynamics, female psychology, and networking. And following that phase of my life completely changed. Today I go on at least 1 date a week with a super attractive woman without even trying. I also live a lifestyle that I pretty much dreamed of since the very beginning, but most importantly, not only was I able to meet even more attractive, high quality women, but I was able to make even more money and live a lifestyle that I can only dream of. It has taken me 5 years to develop this skill set and get to this point in my life, and I'm not even getting started. However, it doesn't have to take 5 years for you, because this channel is dedicated to sharing all the knowledge that has gotten me to where I am today to save you time. So if what I'm saying resonates with you and you're looking to achieve greatness in your dating life, your social life, and your networking, you're in the right place. And this channel, including this video, is made for you. Let's get on with the video. Enjoy.
And it really boils down to, again, the concept we've been talking about, which is social capital. Okay, so let's touch briefly on silence. Silence is basically obviously when she's not responding, and basically what you want to do there is really build social capital. And shit test is really where she is kind of challenging you and testing you, and you need to basically just do the right thing to move it to basically the next step, which is logical questions, which is where she's trying to find information about yourself and she's starting to engage a little bit more. And then obviously that will lead you on to the next phase, which is clearly positive messages, which will then allow you to close, to basically get the date. And that is the soft close, which is an entirely completely different section in the course, which we will touch on again as well. And that will teach you how to basically get the girl from the texting part to the actual date. But depending on what you get in terms of the responses from the girl is going to determine how you're going to react and progress it onto the next phase of the interaction and ultimately to the date. If there is one principle that you need to keep in mind whenever you're texting girls, is the following: social capital or social bank account. The best way to describe social capital is basically your ability to ask things from people. And you will hear me refer to social bank account building or social bank account withdrawal in this program. So it is fundamental that you get yourself up to speed with this concept and that you learn it. Now, let me give you an example. Say you're walking down the street and then some homeless guy that you've never seen in your life walks up to you and asks you for money, right? You're most likely going to just, especially if you're busy, you need to go somewhere, you don't have time or you don't have any change, you just, you probably ignore him or say, no, sorry, and then you just, straight up keep walking. That would be considered a negative response, right? But if your friend who you've known for many years, who you've had, you've got a good relationship with, and is going through a bit of a difficult patch and is asking you for money, as long as obviously it's a reasonable amount of money and you can afford it, you are most likely going to do that favor and give him the money, especially if over time you guys have built a good relationship, meaning that you've done things for him and he's done things for you and he's always paid you back, and you probably even borrowed some money from him and he's and you paid him back, and there is a goodwill, a good kind of energy, well, I would say relationship is probably the best word to use, that you have with your friend here compared to the homeless guy. So you have social capital with your friend, and your friend has social capital with you, and every time you guys do things for each other, provide value to each other, you're building that social capital towards one another. So when your friend comes and asks you for money, he is withdrawing that social capital from his bank account, from his social capital bank account. So ultimately now he has a little bit less social capital in your eyes, but because he's built it to a certain level, he can afford to ask for things for you, because he's built up, he's done good things over time for you, and then when it's time for you to do something for him, then obviously it will lower down his social capital, but he can afford it because you have that relationship. Okay, but the homeless man doesn't have any social capital. He's just here asking without having built anything with you in the first place. He's never done anything for you, he's not offering you anything in exchange. And this might sound very transactional, but you will soon realize that this applies to dating. This applies to pretty much anything in life. You have social capital with everyone and anybody that you meet in life. That's just how it works. In terms of dating, most guys try to spend their social capital, which is already non-existent with girls. Like, they have zero social capital. They've not built any goodwill. They've not been provided any value to the girl. And they're trying to make withdrawals from their social bank account, which is already at zero. Okay? So they will start, trying to ask her for a date, asking her for pictures, asking her for this, asking her for that, which is very weird, right? Before even having built any sort of relationship, before even having portrayed that you have value or having given value to the girl, right? And you can give value to the girl by just providing good emotions, a good time, showing her that you're a valuable guy, right? So ultimately the girl is just going to not engage with you and treat you like the homeless guy. No, sorry, I'm busy, I've got better things to do, because you're not providing any value and you're not building any social capital. So how do you build social capital? Well, social capital is built over time of positive experience with somebody. The more you speak to the girl and have a positive, i.e. giving value, you are building your social capital. Things like, fun stories, sharing good moments, making her feel, making her laugh, qualifying her, challenging her, all these things that either build comfort or attraction. You are building some social capital, and then you lead up to a point where asking for the date. I say asking, you're not really asking, you're always suggesting and leading, but that is essentially considered a withdrawal in your social capital bank account, because you're asking something from the girl. You're asking her to make some time for this, come and see you, and basically moving this relationship forward. And obviously that there is some level of time and resources that come together in order to make this happen. So it is essentially an ask. So it is considered a withdrawal from your social bank account with that girl. Now, there is ways that you can even propose and lead towards a date in a way that actually increases your social capital. You can frame it as, providing value and inviting her to something that is fun, right? But that is a little bit more advanced, and we can touch on this later on in the program. But this is the biggest concept in text game, and you'll have to really get grips with it, because we will talk about things that will build your social capital and things that will take away from your social capital. And that is essentially the whole kind of foundation of text game. Building comfort, trust, attraction, and familiarity with a girl is going to contribute into building your social capital, which then will allow you to make withdrawals from it in order to move the interaction where you want it to be. So next time you're sending a text to a girl, you need to ask yourself, is this text building my social capital bank account, or is it draining it? All right, so let's talk about silences, which is probably the worst form of text that you can get from a girl. And you need to understand first and foremost the reason why you're getting a silence. And again, it basically means that you're just not occupying enough importance in her brain and in her life for her to garner you a response right now. Okay, you don't deserve really to get a response, and it's not in a way that it's you're not enough as a person or anything. It's just that in her world you simply are not there yet. You don't have the social capital, right? For example, same thing as if someone tries to message you, and a stranger tries to message you or DM you on Instagram and tries to sell you something. It's just not really a priority for you. But if that person sends you like free things, for example, hey, I want to send you some free stuff, some free products to try. Now all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I like free shit. Yeah, of course, like sure, why not? And then they send you the free stuff and you actually like it, and they're like, hey, do you know what? We've actually got something that's a little bit better than that. Actually, way more better to be fair, and it costs only just like $10 or something like this. Now you're like, oh, do you know what? Let me check it out. So they have offered you value first and then proposed something that is of equal value to you and to them. So it's the same thing with texting girls and obtaining this silence response. You need to build social capital. You need to build the positive kind of social bank account really with her. And there is a few ways to do this, but the first thing that you need to bear in mind is avoid the mistakes of getting butthurt, sending, messages, reacting to the girl, be like, hey, why you're not replying? I thought we had a good energy or a good vibe or whatever, all this weird woo-woo shit. Do not react. The last thing you want to do if you get a silence or anything from a woman is really react emotionally. You want to stay grounded and you want to act as if, yeah, whatever, it's not a big deal, you don't really care. Like, that's the last thing on your mind. What? A girl not replying to your text? Who gives a fuck? I've got 50,000 girls I'm messaging anyways, So that's the energy I need you to have. And okay, how do you build a social capital with that girl or whichever girl that gives you a silence? Well, there's a few ways. Usually what I like to do is treat it as a social media account. What do I mean by that? It's like the same way I would update, Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is. I mean, we don't use Facebook nowadays. The modern days, Facebook is kind of outdated, but treat it like Twitter, for example. Okay, you're just posting things that, cool things or funny things that happen to you throughout the day, and you're just posting it on social media. You should treat that conversation the same way. You should send her something that is funny, something cool that happened to you, a picture of, your auntie's dog coming and playing with you and be like, oh, look at this, little gremlin being all cute. Whatever. Like, it's basically called pinging value into the void, okay? Writing a funny caption alongside a funny picture of something that happened to you during the day, or something cool, you doing something, riding a motorbike, or whatever that is, value giving. You should just drop it without expecting a response, without expecting or demanding a response from her, okay? Again, this is called pinging value into the void. And ultimately what you will see is that by providing this value, this energy, this positive vibe, women will start to form a picture around you as a man and be like, okay, he's up to these fun, cool things all the time. And he's not butthurt by the fact that I'm not answering, but like, he's just enjoying his life. Maybe I kind of want to find out a little bit more about this guy. Like, what the fuck? Let me reply. And then she goes, haha, sorry, university has been so crazy, or work has been crazy, or my auntie died, or some weird shit like this. You actually don't know why they might be not responding. But ultimately, this pinging value into the void builds your social bank account until the point where she's like, I'm intrigued enough, let me answer to this guy and see what else he's got. And obviously that turns into most likely a shit test, okay, which we will talk about the next video. Okay, so shit test. The shit test is a response that girl will give you when you have a little bit more social capital as opposed to, for example, the silence. Now, a shit test looks like the following. It's when the girl kind of tests you a little bit, pushes your buttons a little bit, just to see if you're cool as you're pretending to be, because that's the only way women can really tell if you're the guy you're kind of portraying to be, right? So they will often say, oh, you think you're really cool, aren't you? Or you think you're very smart, or you think that, you're very cocky, or you're very confident, something like this, or you say this to every girl. Well, first of all, the things that you do not want to do when you are faced with a shit test, in order to pass the shit test, is react emotionally, or over-explain yourself, or backtrack, right? Or say sorry, or I didn't mean this, or haha, actually I'm not that clever. Like, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to act needy. You don't want to be asking questions. You don't want to pass the shit test and ask a question. You don't want to pass the shit test and make plans. You don't want to pass the shit test and then say something else. When you are faced with a shit test, you want to pass it and leave it to that, okay? So, as we said, you don't want to react, you don't want to over-explain yourself, you don't want to, backtrack or apologize, you don't want to do any of these things. What you want to do to pass the shit test is one of the following techniques to pass the shit test. One good way to do it is by agreeing and exaggerating what the girl is saying. For example, if a girl says, you think you're smart, huh? You could say, what's his name again? That fucking physics guy? Wow, my knowledge really let me down here. Einstein. There we go, I should know this. You could say, oh yeah, Einstein's got nothing on me. Is it Einstein? Albert Einstein, yeah, of course. You could say Albert Einstein's got nothing on me. Sorry guys, I've not done. I've been out of school for a long time. Okay, you could say, yeah, Albert Einstein's absolutely got nothing against me, and just leave it to this. No follow up, no asking questions, none of this. Okay, because what it does, it puts her in her head now, because you've passed the shit test and you're not being needy, right? You're not asking for a follow up. You're not trying hard for the conversation to keep going. She gave you a shit test, you passed it, and you leave it to that. It's the ball's on her court. That applies every time you get a shit test. Okay. The second way you can pass a shit test is by so we say agree and amplify and misinterpret, okay? So misinterpreting what she's saying into something that is basically playing into your favor. For example, you could say, well, what it may look like is you taking it as a compliment as opposed to taking it as a shit test, okay? Or basically just misinterpreting it as a positive as opposed to a negative. For example, if she says, oh, you think you're really confident, are you? Or like you're very confident, aren't you? Or like you're very cocky. You could say, Oh, I appreciate that you think so highly of me. I'll take that as a compliment. You know, like that's just reframing it as something positive, okay? And what it does, it puts her back in her head. It puts her back into like, it gives her that, you know, that emotional, oh, I fucking hate this guy. But that's good, because the worst thing that you can do with women is not give them any emotions. You want to give them positive or negative emotions, right? But obviously there needs to be a balance, okay? And that's what really makes women hooked on you. So your goal when you get a shit test, once again, is to only pass it using one of these techniques and pass the shit test only. Do not send an additional message, let her reply. Your goal is to pass the shit test only. Logical questions. This is a positive and negative at the same time. I'll tell you why. It's because, well, it's positive because now the girl is slightly more invested. You've passed the shit test. She's more interested now because she thinks, okay, this guy is actually as cool as he pretends to be. Your social capital is going up and she wants to find out more information about you. Now, the curse is that it's logical, which means that it's not fun. It's an interview style kind of phase, and a lot of guys fall in the trap of being logical. For example, the girl is going to ask you what your job is, how old you are, where do you live, blah, 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 blah. What you don't want to do is simply answer a question logically, right? What you want to do instead is briefly answer the logical side, ideally in a fun, exciting way. For example, if she says your job, you know, if you ask you for your job and you're an analyst, you could say, I look at, I'm the guy who decides what companies do, okay? You just make it fun, make it interesting. Or like, you know, a English spy or something like this, you know, in parentheses 007, right? In addition to answering the logical side of the question, you want to interject some flirtiness, some emotional spike, some things to keep, you know, the interaction nice and fun and polarized.
Hey, what's up? It's Dan here. If you don't want to have to think about lines or what to say when you're texting a girl, I have created a workbook with hundreds of my lines that I have collected over the past 9 years of texting women. And these are the exact lines that I use every single week to get dates with attractive women. It is literally up for grabs immediately and it's completely free. Check out the link down in the description for my texting playbook. That way you don't have to think about what your next message will be. You have lines to deal with every situation. Shit test, positive responses, silences, whatever the case may be. It is up for grabs. Click in the link down below and I will send it straight to you.
All right. And really this could be either teasing the girl or, you know, providing, you know, some level of value, or it could be moving the interaction towards the date. And whether you do one or the other really depends on the overall assessment of how the conversation has been right now. Was the conversation positive up until this point, or did you have to deal with a lot of shit tests up until right now? If you had to deal with a lot of shit tests, you're probably not at a point where you have enough social value for her to agree on a date. But if she was very positive and she was like, you know, really showing interest in you and kind of, you know, hinting at plans even herself, then this is probably a very positive interaction, which you will be quite safe to go towards plans and hint towards plans, which is the soft close. And you can look at the soft close section of the course to understand how to do this. But logical questions, the worst thing you can do is stay logical. Answer the logical part of the question swiftly. Also interject some emotional aspect and some emotional spikes to your response to your text to keep it fun and alive. Okay, so if you're getting a very positive text, which is basically the girl showing very, you know, a lot of interest into you and even hinting at plans or really, you know, replying and reacting, you know, very emotionally to your text, this is the time where you want to start to doing the soft close, okay? You want to start preparing the date in, you know, gradually, as you will hear and understand in the soft close section. But most importantly, keep it fun, because a lot of guys here when they're like, okay, my job is done, she is into me, let me drop the fun and let's go into logistics mode. Let me, you know, set the date up. And they forget about the fact that, you know, the girl has gone to this point because of the good things that you were doing so far. So keep up doing, you know, the fun stuff. However, you need to obviously be progressing towards the date, because a lot of guys, what they will do, and this is a big mistake, is that they will stay in the positive phase and they will try to keep doing the things that got them into the positive phase. And that will just, you know, basically just burn it to the ground, because the girl is like, eventually, is this guy going to ask me out or not? Like, what the fuck? Why are we talking here for days and days and days and days? He's not even asked me out or even hinted at plans. So you keep doing the same attraction building stuff and you just stay there. Or the other thing is they try to qualify the girl and try to get her to jump through their hoops, but it's not going to lead anywhere because you're not setting up the date. So if you are going to try to get the girl to jump through your hoops to ultimately sleep with you, why don't you get her on a date and get her to jump through the hoops in person so that you can actually take her to your place and sleep together, as opposed to doing it over text, right? So seduction shouldn't be over text, it should be in person. Or the other thing is they try to, get the girl to comply and start sexting and everything and asking for pictures from the girl. It's like, bro, you cannot sleep with a picture. You can sleep with a person in real life, but you can't sleep with a picture. So even though you understand that, yes, the girl is showing interest and is positive, responding positively, and you're going for it, but you're not going for it in the right place or the right format. You should push for the date and then do that stuff in person, because that's what's going to allow you to go back home with the girl and have fun together. So really what you want to do is, like I said, lead it towards the soft close and start closing for date slowly, but keeping it fun and keeping it, balanced between, comfort and attraction, and obviously leading to making plans. And that's essentially what you should be doing when you're starting to get a good level of positive responses from the girl. Okay, so you're texting the girl and it's going all well, you're getting responses that are positive, and it's time to now start closing for the date. And the big mistake that guys do is they drop the plans, they drop the dates in the chat like a ton of bricks. And that is the biggest mistake that you can do, because first of all, it's a massive spend on your social capital, because there is literally no value in that text. You're just asking the girl, demanding her to show up to a place and do something at a specific time, which she might not be available for and she might not be able to do. Or if you're, suggesting a activity or some sort of, food or drinks, maybe she doesn't like drinking. Maybe she's allergic to, tacos or whatever it is. Or she, currently has, hurt her ankle and she can't do, the activity that you're demanding. So you're basically setting yourself up for the girl to say no to you and object to many things that you're offering. So the best way to do it is by basically doing a soft close, okay? And what this is designed to do is to avoid the girl saying no to you, because once a girl says no to you, she will rationalize why she says no to you, and she will say, he was weird, or he did that odd weird thing that day and I didn't like it, and that's why I said no. Like, women are like this, they backwards rationalize what they do. So this leads me into the first concept, which is the yes ladder. So what you want to do with the yes ladder is basically designed, and it's used in sales actually, it's used in sales and psychology, but it's designed to get somebody to say yes to you multiple times before you ask the question that you actually want them to say yes to. For example, for a girl that you want to take on a date, this might look like this. You can ask her, are you into wine or cocktails? And she would say, oh, I quite like cocktails actually. You're like, okay, great. What's your thought on having cocktails with a sexy French guy? And she'll be like, well, who wouldn't love this? I mean, come on, who wouldn't love having, as a girl, have drinks with a sexy French guy? Come on, right? It's also playful, right? It's also kind of like you're saying this with like a smirk on your face, theoretically speaking. And the third question could be, okay, great, so what's your schedule like this week? And she would say, oh, I'm working Monday to Friday, I'm seeing my sister on Saturday during the day, and then I'm free for the rest of the evening, and I'm off on Sunday. Be like, okay, great, well, let's go grab cocktails at this place at that time, right? Because she said yes to cocktails. She said yes to hanging out with a French guy. She said, which, if you're French, I'm just using that as an example. If you're English or American or German or whatever it is, just use that, like, create something fun. You can say something fun about yourself. She's agreed to that, and she's also free on Saturday night, which, obviously you might be free as well. And then, it's likely that she's going to say yes to the last question, which is, let's do drinks with myself, the French guy, on the night that you're free, right? So you're setting yourself up to win. It's like, it's like somebody's giving you the ball and you're like just smacking it down in the net. You're basically scoring the goal, okay? You're setting yourself up for success. So this is a way of basically avoiding no, right? Avoiding hearing no from the girl, and you're kind of like just setting yourself up to get a date locked in. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is, instead of thinking about the close as the close, you want to think about it as the closing sequence. So typically speaking, I'm replying to whatever the girl is saying over text, and then I ask her, what's your week looking like this week? What's your schedule looking like for this week? Okay, and then that allows me to find out her availability, and then I usually follow up with a response with a question saying, do you like drinking with with sexy French men, right? I would even say just men. I wouldn't even say a man, okay? Because I'm French, like I said, previously. That's usually the question that I go for, and then I start to gauge how she's reacting. The key thing here is to feedback. How she's responding is feedback, right?
Quick message. If this stuff that you're hearing right now is resonating with you and you want to get further and faster in your dating life and your social life, I have created a community detailing exactly step by step what you should do in a structured program to get you the results that you want in your dating and social life. YouTube videos are good and very insightful. However, you need a structured program with accountability to get to where you want. And that's exactly what my Skool community is about. Check out the link down below. It's completely free to start. And if you found this video valuable, what's inside the community is 10 times better. Check out the link down below and it's completely free to start. I'll see you there. Let's get on with the video.
Right? And if you gain positive responses from her, you can keep going down the sequence, the closing sequence, all the way down to the actual plans, which I'm going to talk about later on in the video. But basically, you want to gauge how she's responding, because if you start to say, how's your week looking like, and then she responds, and then you say, what's your idea of how do you feel about drinks with a sexy French man or with sexy French men, and then she's like giving you a shit test, then you have to pull back on the closing sequence, deal with the shit test, and then you basically keep going from there, get it positive again, and then start closing again. So it's very important that you feed off the response as opposed to just take this as a linear step or a linear process, because it will sometimes interject between different steps. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is, we've talked about the concept of soft close and hard close, but now we get into the stage where the plans themselves need to be discussed. And there is this notion again of hard plans and soft plans. And what do I mean by this is, if I had to pick, this is my personal opinion, and I think, again, it's worked fairly well for me. If you had to lock in specific time and place for the dates, as opposed to keep the plans a little bit open-ended, I would always go for the open-ended. For example, think about setting up plans with your friend. Okay, say for example, you text your friend and you say, let's grab a drink after work, right? And they say, yeah, cool, that's fine. It's very rare that you will be like, meet me at that place at that time. Like literally a couple of days before, right? You usually kind of figure it out close to the time with your friend, because if you try to get the girl to commit to a time and a place and a date too soon, like 3, 4, 5 days before, it starts to feel like a commitment. Okay, it starts to feel a little bit like it's asking too much, and she's just going to snap out of it and like freeze and be like, oh, that's too much. If you say to a girl, do you want to have drinks on Wednesday at 5 p.m. at Jenny's bar? Like, she'll be like, oh, I can't do 5 p.m. Okay, can you do 6:35 p.m. at Whiskers and Bunkers, whatever the fuck the restaurant is? You're like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Okay, can you do 6:30? Fuck. Anyways, right? Like, it's just too much, okay? And it's kind of needy, it's unnatural, and it just makes you look like you don't really have anything else going on. Now, the best way to do it is basically keep it a little bit open-ended, okay? What I like to do is I like to set up at least kind of obviously the day, and say the afternoon and the evenings after 6 p.m., right? Let's do drinks on Wednesday after 6 p.m. And what I like to do is this is another technique, is I'll confirm the place near the time. I'll confirm what bar or where we're going to go in the area near the day. That's what I would say to the girl, right? We'll pick a time, we'll pick a day and a kind of estimate over time and an estimate of the area we will be hanging out and having drinks. So we'd say, I'll meet you in Central Wednesday evening after 6. I'll confirm the details near the time. Okay, you kind of like pre-book it, but then you confirm the details later on. Another good thing about leaving the plans open is that it gives you some token messages to send to the girl to check in on her, and then basically for you to just confirm that the date is still on, as opposed to setting the date up in one message or in too early, like days before the date, because usually you want to set it up at least 1 or 2 dates. 3 maximum before the date, I would say. Try avoid at least a couple of days before or the day before is ideal. But once you set the date too early with all the specifics, now you have no text to send to the girl. The only text that you can send to her is, are we still on? And that is a very bad text to send, because it communicates that girl usually flakes on you. Why would not we be still on? I can't even speak English anymore. It's been a long day, I'm a little bit sick. But why would we not be still on? Like, do women flake on you usually on dates? So that's what you communicate with that text. But if you leave the plans a little bit loose and you say, I'll confirm with you close to the time, because you're busy, you've got other things to do, and you'll kind of like, you'll see what places are available and what you kind of want, what you like. Now, all of a sudden you can say, hey, I'm finishing work at 7, how does 7:30 sound at this place? And she says, yeah, 7:30 sounds good, or no, I actually can't finish, or I finish early, I'll finish later. And then actually, it's a good positive response, because she is saying that that time doesn't work, which means that she is still intending to show up, but perhaps at a different time that works for you guys. So you just need to provide a different time based on what she's saying, so that it works for both of you guys, as opposed to be like, oh, are we still on? Okay, it's very different texts, very different, it conveys two very different things, and one is basically leeching value and one is providing value or spending your social capital. One is just perhaps contributing to it, or very neutral. But be very careful here. I'm not saying leave the plans so unspecific to the point that you're not even sure if it's going to happen. Like I said, pick a day, around the time of the day, around between around 6 or 7, and perhaps the area as well that you want to go and hang out and have drinks. For example, in London we've got Soho. I could say to a girl, hey, Wednesday evening in Soho, let's say around 7 p.m. I'll text you the specifics later on, and I'll text her. I'll be like, hey, look, let's do 7:30 in this bar in Soho, right? I will text her that like the day before, right? And then if she replies and she says, yeah, sounds good, perfect, then there you go. I didn't send a needy text, I was just sorting out logistics. But also what this does, it also gives her an opportunity to be like, hey, do you want to meet at that place at this time, or do you want to do 6:30 at the Bluebird in Soho? If she is trying to finish the closing sequence, that's positive, and that basically guarantees you that you're going on a date with that girl and you're going to take her home and sleep with her, because she's obviously very invested, very looking forward to see you. The first reason why women lose interest when they're texting guys is because guys play it too safe. Guys do not play to win, and I want you to think about texting as a roller coaster of emotions, okay? If you stay on the logical emotions, then it's going to become bland and the whole attraction is going to fade away. But if you start to peppering in challenges, teasing, giving her a bit of a hard time, she is going to respond extremely well to this. You remember we spoke about the 4 types of texting, the 4 types of messages that you can get from a girl, and one of them is a shit test. That's exactly what you should give her as well. Give her a shit test. Make her essentially feel a little bit nervous about your text, right? That's actually the kind of anxious nervous is the best feeling you want to create when you're texting a woman. And typically if you're texting good, you will see the interaction go from silence to shit test to logical questions to positive and soft close. So it will go up instead of going down, because if you keep it bland and you're not playing to win, you're not trying to be a bit risky, it's just going to fade away. And that's typically what happens. And guys will ask, oftentimes send me messages, but Dan, how do I flirt? Why do I say? How do I tease? Well, there is a bunch of lines for you, not only in this page, but also in the what to say page in the text game module, which you can visit to get some inspiration for teasing, challenging, qualifying. But make sure that you're using this in your text, not at late in the interaction, but you're using it since from day 1, because you have to keep her on her toes. Otherwise, she's going to lose interest, start to disappear, and eventually just doesn't reply to you at all.